You know, I used to live in this house, but I never saw so many people in my time. So let me begin by crediting our energetic and enthusiastic ambassador, who's really brought a great deal of josh into this relationship. And I was telling him that if any of us had doubts how energetic Sandhus can be, you saw the Bhangra group. They were full of Sandhus too. But it's really great to be here. It's great to be back. It's great to be in DC. And I must tell you, in many ways, this has been an extraordinary year. It's been an extraordinary year for India. But it's been really something fantastic, something very different for our relationship with the US. And you all saw that. You all saw that when the Prime Minister came. You saw it in terms of the warmth of the welcome, the substance of our cooperation, the breadth of his engagements. There's one clear message today, that our relationship is at an all-time high. But, as they say in America, you ain't seen anything yet. So we are going to take this relationship to a different level, to a different place. And, when we went back to India from that trip, a lot of people asked me, saying, look, you've been doing this American relationship for a long time. What was it like? What were the earlier visits like? How do you compare? Now, I tried to be objective, okay? I'm in politics, but I still sort of tried to keep as much balance and non-partisanship. And I genuinely told people that if one thought about, visits which change the relationship, certainly for someone, of my, I don't want to say age, I'll say experience, people remember the Rajiv Gandhi visit in 1985, okay? I was here at that time. People remember the 2005 visit, Dr. Manmohan Singh's visit, when the nuclear deal happened. I was there too, as someone negotiating it. People remember Prime Minister Modi's own earlier visit, the Madison Square Garden, the first visit, the MLK Memorial. But I have to say that this one was different. It was different definitely in optics. I mean, you, as I said, you all saw it for yourself. But if you ask me what has changed, I think what has changed is India and the United States used to deal with each other. Today they work with each other. That is really what has changed. Now, there are a lot of scientists here. Scientists like to talk about data. They make correlations, right? Right, Panch? So I want to give you a data, and I want you to make the correlation about our improving relationship, okay? When Pandit Nehru came to the United States in 1949, there were 3,000 Indian Americans. When Indira Gandhi came to the United States in 1966, there were 30,000 Americans, Indian Americans. When Rajiv Gandhi came here in 1985, there were 300,000 Indian Americans. When Narendra Modi came, there were more than 3 million, now going on to almost 5 million. So, get the correlation. What's the change? You guys are the change. If there is something unique about our relationship with the United States. It is actually the human bond that we have between our two countries. And it is this bond, because, countries do business with each other. Countries do politics with each other. They have military ties, they do exercises. They have cultural exchanges. But when two countries have that deep human bonding, that's a completely different ballgame. And that is today the defining characteristic of our relationship. And so I want to tell all of you, and I know there's, out of the, 4.5 million, some of you aren't here, but the role, responsibility, contribution of the community to this relationship. This is something fantastic. There are really no words that can capture it. And it is on that foundation that today we are looking ahead for a completely, I think I heard the words, a new hope on the horizon. I think that was the last song. So I think when we look at the horizon, we really see fantastic possibilities out there. And it's the community which is going to deliver on that. Now, my visit this time, I came to New York for the UN General Assembly. I then came to Washington, which we often do. I met my counterpart, Secretary Blinken, the Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, the Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo, the Trade Representative Catherine Tai, the National Security Advisor, did a few business meetings, addressed a few think tanks. This is what foreign ministers do for a living. But when I speak today to the world, to people in the United States, to people of other countries, the many foreign ministers I met in New York, I want to share with you that this is truly a different India for which I speak. It is an India which, as you heard from others, is capable of the Chandrayaan-3 mission. It is an India which was able to pull off the most spectacular G20 and prove those who said that we will not be able to get 20, I don't want to say quarreling countries, but 20 countries with different positions to come to the table together. This was an India which showed during COVID that it could not only look after its own people, but which could extend a hand to more than 100 countries across the world. It is a country, it is an India today. The ambassador spoke about unicorns. Now, many of you know, for example, in the telecom world today, how important it is to have your own 5G. Today, we are the country where the fastest rollout of 5G is happening. So, I want to say in many ways, if there is a spring in our step, a confidence in our voice, a sort of squaring of our shoulder, there are very good reasons for it. Because it is built today on 10 years of hard work. It is built on, there are domains where, in fact, our capacities have doubled, have tripled. I think it would perhaps come as a surprise to many of you that as many universities and colleges have been created in the last 10 years as they were existing in the 65 years before that. That is the kind of change today that is taking place in India. Now, in the various discussions that I have been in, I'm often asked, saying, okay, you've done this a long time, so tell us, where do you think this relationship is going? Now, it's hard for me today, really, to put a limit on it, to define it, to even voice expectations. Because in every way, I mean, ask yourselves, I mean, many of you came, some of you would have come here more recently, many of you have been here longer, all of you have tracked the relationship, because this relationship is, after all, your own story. Ask yourself, what did you think 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago? And would you not agree with me that today, in every way, this relationship has exceeded expectations? Which is why today we don't even try to define it. We actually keep raising the bars. We keep finding new domains. We keep, the more we do with each other, the more we find we are able to explore together, to achieve together. So for me, in this changing world, because the world is truly changing, if you look at the state of the world, the challenges before the world, the relationships of countries, I would say today India and the United States have moved to a position where we really see each other as very desirable, optimal partners, comfortable partners, with whom it's a natural instinct today to pick up the phone, or if you meet somewhere, to have a conversation, to share your anxieties, to explore your solutions. So the chemistry and the comfort today of the relationship, this today gives me enormous hope about where the prospects are. A concrete aspect of that is actually the world itself. That this is a world of greater technology. That everything we do, from the phone you use, I see it in everybody's hand, to the cars in which you drove in, to any transaction that you do. In every way today, technology has penetrated deep into our lives. Now, because technology has penetrated so deep, this is not just a question anymore of business. It's a question of security. It is a question of privacy. It is actually our, what we have put out there about ourselves is sometimes more than we know. So it is today not just a question of, which partner are you best off working, who gives you the best terms. It is very much today, who are your trusted partners. In my business, foreign policy, if there's one big change, it is the frequency of the word trust. That people look at other countries, at other leaders, at other situations, and ask themselves, can I trust this country or this leadership or this counterpart? And today, so beyond chemistry, beyond comfort, to me, it is the trust quotient of this relationship which has really made it very unique. Now, there are a lot of other things we have going for us. And again, I would say that many of the changes which are taking place in India are directly feeding into this relationship. And let me give you a few examples. I travel a fair amount within India. I make it a point wherever I go to visit a university, a college, a young people's gathering, because the enthusiasm, the energy that you get there is something really out of this world. And it's very different from the days, certainly when I studied, I suspect even from the days when many of you studied. The students, they ask you to meet the bright students. These are not necessarily, in the old days, it would be the gold medalist, the person who got the best grades. Today, if you go to an institution, they will put before you students who have patents, students who have done startups, students who today want to show you, take you around exhibitions that they have done. So we discussed there were references made even to the, in the context of the Chandrayaan. I had the privilege when Prime Minister, we were abroad, when the landing took place. We were at a meeting in South Africa. Obviously, we took time off from the meeting. You all saw, Prime Minister was following the landing and was talking to the ISRO because these are tense moments, However confident anybody is about a mission, that period, you want to have somebody around you who would give you reassurance. And believe me, nobody can do reassurance better than Mr. Modi. Okay, he's today reassuring the entire country, in many ways the whole world. So he was actually plugged in from South Africa. And he was talking to the ISRO. This was unfolding. And then when it all went well, as you know. And then he decided that instead of flying back to Delhi, he would actually land directly in Bengaluru and go straight to the ISRO headquarters. Now, fortunately, since I was traveling with him, I too had a chance to tag along. And I want to say this, I've myself been a member of the Space Commission. When I was Foreign Secretary, I've been interested in space and nuclear for a long part of my career. When you sat there, and there was this room of about 1,000 people, at one level, they looked the most normal people you could think of. Yet, you could feel they were the most special people. And the kind of confidence that they exuded, because I could actually, sitting among them, actually ask them, saying, so how tense were you guys? Did you see, were you worried? What were the possibilities of something not going the way you thought? And I must tell you, it was, their confidence, their conviction about the mission was simply amazing. Now, because it stuck so deeply in my mind, a few weeks later, I went to Kerala. Now, in Kerala, they have an institute which trains people for space. Okay, it's called the ISST. I think it's International Space, Indian Space Applications and Technology Institute, something. Anyway, so I went to that institute, and these were BTech, MTech, PhD students. These were people who had the feedstock of our space program. And when you see today what these young people in their graduate and postgraduate degree processes, what they are capable of, what they have done, the kind of things which they have themselves invented, which feed, by the way, a lot of it feeds directly into the space program. So I mention this to you because, yes, it's a great achievement. No question. Yes, we've joined a special club. But today, in many ways, the new India is an India of Chandrayaan, it's an India of COVID, it's an India of 5G. This is really what we are capable of. And it is this India today which the United States also sees. It is this India with which the United States actually has an appetite for working much more closely. Now, it's an interesting discovery I made, that if you look at some of the recent things which India, we've done together, they all start with the alphabet I. So we just spoke about this Middle Eastern corridor. It's called IMEC, India Middle East Economic Corridor. There was an earlier initiative called I2U2. This is India, Israel, United States, UAE. All of you are familiar today with the term Indo-Pacific. Even when it comes to technology, we speak about ISET. Okay. So clearly, the alphabet I think is very good for the United States. Somewhere, folks, people have figured this one out. Go for the alphabet I, then pick a word. Hopefully, there's a country there. There are good people out there. Those are the guys you need to work with. So, what I want to say again is that, this relationship today, I started at a time in the early 80s when you actually had to explain where you're from, what you're about. It's good to see members of Congress here. Those were tough days, they didn't even let you into the rooms in the Congress. And there were, at that time, there was no Indian American member of Congress at that time. But if one looks at the journey, how far we've come, and how deep this relationship, how broad this relationship. There is no department in the government today that doesn't have dealings with their Indian or American counterparts as they may be. But I think, as Nisha reminded us, this is not about government. It is something very much bigger. That when we, I see today the levels of interest in second level, third level, sometimes even rural area about the relationship. Again, I'll share with you an experience. We had gone back after Prime Minister Modi's visit. And, many of you know I'm a member of parliament from Gujarat. Okay. So that's not the story. The story is still coming. So we hear, it's often, I'm sure it happens in the US as well, which is members of Congress, members of parliament from a particular state gather together. So we had this evening in the Gujarat State House in Delhi. And there were a few ministers as well. Prime Minister was good enough to come. All the MPs are there. And then one of the ministers said, there's there are these folk singers, these people who twang something, they make up the words. It's like a song about what's happening in the world. Now, what was really amazing to me? Here was this folk singer. I think he was from Kutch. Okay, these are people who are, I would say, self-taught, self-educated. They make up things as they go along. And he started singing. He told Prime Minister Modi, saying, I want to sing a song about you. And then, when he sang the song, and my Gujarati had to struggle a bit to keep up with it, he sang actually. There was a bit about Prime Minister's America visit. That today, actually, if a visit to the United States, a Biden-Modi meeting, has entered, the boondocks of India, that if balladeers are making songs about this, that tells you something both about how actually connected we are to the world, but also today, how much in people's mind this relationship matters. So once again, let me say it's great to be back. It's really wonderful to see so many of you, and I really thank the ambassador and his team for bringing you all together. But before I conclude, I do want to say, we are approaching Gandhi Jayanti, and I want to leave a thought with all of you. Mahatma Gandhi was, to say he was an extraordinary man would be the understatement of this century. Okay. We often, we quote him. He said so many things so tellingly. But at the end of the day, if we ask ourselves, okay, so what was the message? The message at the end of the day was about doing the right thing, about doing the decent thing, about leaving no one behind. The Gandhiji's message is very complicated, but its essence is actually very, very simple. So when we took up the G20 presidency, the responsibility, in many ways, I must say that message was at the heart of our thinking. And I say that not just because we had a successful G20 summit. I think what we tried to do in G20, the underlying thinking, reflected what we are trying to do in India, what I think many Americans are trying to do in America, what we, India and America, should be doing with the world, which is to leave no one behind. Now, as a member of parliament, we have districts, even if you're not a directly elected member, there are constituencies or districts for which you have development responsibilities. The district which I have attached myself to is actually what we call an aspirational district called Narmada. I think everybody from Gujarat would certainly know it, but for others, I must say, it's the district with the tallest statue in the world, Sardar Patel's Statue of Unity. It's a district where, in many ways, it has a large population, tribal population. People have struggled with health, with education, with basic amenities. Today, it is among the fastest transforming districts of India. I mentioned this to you because what we tried to do in the G20, which was to get countries of the global south together, the countries facing problems, 125 of them, and ask them, saying, tell us what your problems are, because you folks are not going to be on the table when the G20 meets. Somebody has to put those problems before the G20. And we believe, as I said, it's the right thing, it is the decent thing, that your problems become the focus of the G20. So the G20 is successful, not because we found the right formulations on a matter as complicated as the conflict in Ukraine. The G20 is successful because we were able to shine the spotlight on the fact today that resources for education, for health, for development, for infrastructure are falling behind. That we speak about saving the planet, but we're not able to resource that dream. That we talk about technology, but do we actually have a vision of a digital public infrastructure which is so central today for a corruption-free, good governance world? And it is because we were able to get the G20 on the right issues. That, to my mind, is what India's leadership, what India's contribution today is. And I want to recognize one thing, since I'm here standing before a lot of Indian Americans. Obviously, as the host, when things go well, the host always gets the credit. It's reasonable. But the G20 could not have come together if all the members of the G20 did not work for its success. I think particularly, I must say, because I am in this country today, the contribution that, the support and the understanding that we got from the United States to make a successful G20, I think that is something I would certainly like to recognize in public in Washington, D.C. So it may have been our success in a literal way, but I think it was the G20's success. To me, it was also a success of the India-US partnership. So once again, it's great to see all of you. I'm not quite sure what happens in the program, but I want to leave one last thought with you. When I was coming here, these excellent gentlemen of my security detail asked me, saying, so what would it be like when you go to India House? I told them that you'll meet the most disciplined Indian Americans, people who will not rush you, people who will not crowd you, people who will come, people who will come, in groups, stand here. It would be my privilege to get the photograph taken. So I told them, this is an easy evening today, no problems, guys. Now, I hope you don't prove me wrong. Okay? So once again, really, thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's great to see all of you. And all I can say, please keep giving this partnership the support it needs, the support it deserves, the support it expects. And I can promise you that this relationship, like the Chandrayaan, will go to the moon, maybe even beyond. Okay? Thank you.